Hello, everybody. I am Sarkinja, and this is going to be the first video I'm making of my weekly comic book pull list. It's going to be in two parts. It will be first me just showing off the covers that I got, the books I got, and a very brief couple thoughts on the stuff in my pull list. And then it will go into a further part where I'll actually talk more about the plots of the books, which will have spoilers. These will be the books from the previous week. So this pull list would be the one from 2/9/2022, February 9th. And it would have Marvel and DC books, just things that I happen to pull. Before we get started on that, though, I would like to ask if you could like and subscribe to the video and the channel. If you like what you see, if you have thoughts, if you want me to go further in depth on any of these comic books, like back and more history of what I have, like, for example, The Joker is one of the books, and that's on book 12 at the moment. And I have all of that series so far. If you want a recap or a video just focusing on one of those books, that's definitely something I can do. If you let me know you're interested in it, I will try to get that out for you. Um, for the meantime, comment what you like, comment what you don't like. I will adapt these videos as I go, try to improve them every week here. But if you give me a like and a subscribe, that would mean a ton. And then I also stream over on Twitch, and maybe this YouTube will be, maybe this week we will be switching to YouTube as well. So you might be able to catch some streams. So if you're into gaming or you want to just chat comics with somebody, come on by. I will talk about comics and superheroes until I die. So, without further ado, let's get into the books that we have here, and let's get started. Okay, guys, so we will jump into the pull list. This is 2/9/2022. If you want any more information on the plots of these books, you can look at the bottom of the video, and it will be broken into sections per book so that you guys can jump around to points of interest or skip books that you're wanting to read or don't want spoilers for. And let's get started. So first off, we have the DC Valentine's Day issue. This is not a book I'm going to be covering for further plot points here, but we have Harley Quinn and the dinosaur on the front here, and then we've also got Sergeant Rock right down here, who's making an appearance in the book, and apparently he's been a pretty good, strong recurring character in these Valentine's Day type stories. The guys at my comic book shop were extremely excited to see him pop up. So I haven't actually gotten through that one yet. It's a bigger book, as you can hopefully see from the side here. That is a girthy one, so that's more of a novel, graphic novel size than we are looking at a just a single book size. And here's another book that I have not gotten through yet, just due to the size and time constraints. And that is Suicide Squad Blaze. Suicide Squad's been on a really strong run in every iteration. In the recent movie, we've also got the current comic book run, which has been really good. They had Suicide Squad Get Joker, which is like a DC Black Label, which was another really good book. And seeing things that just hadn't been really done before is nice, and that's another perk of Black Label books, is they can get a little darker and a little different. But yeah, we have not gotten through this one yet, so I will not be covering this one later either, just due to the size, but hopefully I can include them in the next week's video. Another one that I'm not reading, I grabbed for mainly collective purposes this week. This is Star Wars Darth Vader, but it is the first time that Mando and Baby Yoda have been on a cover of a comic book, so we snagged that one for fairly obvious reasons, though. Just thinking that its value is probably going to go up, and if they get him in more shows, a movie, another series, another 6 series, his value is going to go up as well. That series has been doing extremely well, so we won't be covering Darth Vader. It's not a series I actively follow at the moment. I got a little late to it. I've read a couple books, and it is good, and I hear great things. So if you are interested in that, I would recommend giving it a shot. And let's move into some books I have read for the week. Here is I Am Batman. And this is Jace Fox, Lucius Fox's son, who are now, they essentially inherited practically all of Bruce Wayne's fortune during the ending of Joker War, so that shouldn't be too much of a spoiler there. If you haven't read through Joker War, I recommend going back and reading through it. Bruce Wayne's fortune is a huge plot point in a lot of the current Batman books, so it shouldn't be a spoiler to you at all in that range. If it wasn't, I'm sorry, but you gotta get caught up here. We gotta catch up. Yeah, so this is Jace Fox, and he started. He got his in the future state Batman, um, where the magistrate took over. It was a look into the potential DC future. He was being Batman, and he also had a face mask on his cowl, which I kind of like, which he's since removed. But that's more because he is a black man who is Batman, and that representation matters. So it's actually when he came to terms, he was keeping it secret from his dad. He came to terms, and his dad's like, "Lose that face mask, dude. People got to see." But he is in New York, and it seems like this is where he's going to be working. Like it's going to be his base of operations. And this book was really interesting, and I'm curious to see where they are going to go with it. Another book for this week is the Justice League Annual. I typically am not too big of an annual fan. 1 second here. I'm too thirsty to talk. I'm not too big of an annual fan. But it's on my pull list, so I got the Justice League book there. A lot of them I end up skimming, but this one was actually really good. I liked it a lot. It was covering a lot of relevant stuff, which I like. Annual books tend to be some other story or some flashback or some flash to the future or other nonsense essentially that doesn't really tie in. So if you're excited for a book, I've been following Justice League, and it's been very jumpy, but I like it. I like the Justice League a lot. I like all the characters they got. And so seeing an annual and be like, oh well, great. Here's another one that's not going to be super on point, but it was very good. I liked it a lot. It was a good read. The art was good. The story was good. I would definitely recommend this book and the Justice League series as a whole. You just got to be patient with it because they are jumping story to story, arc to arc, and then they'll come back and connect to another one. Then they'll jump to another one. It's a little messy right now, but the books are good. The stories are good. They just haven't gotten to fruition on a lot of them. Next up is a current favorite of mine, a top tier comic book in my opinion, and that is Moon Knight, number 8 here. And for Moon Knight fans, the first thing you're going to notice is that this guy, that's not Moon Knight. That is another Fist of Khonshu. And he is kind of taking place of Moon Knight because of the Devil's Reign event that's going here. You can't see my finger, but there we are. This Devil's Reign event, that 6-part event, kind of like a mini crossover event for the Marvel Universe right now, is going on, and Moon Knight's actually involved with that. So this guy's kind of taking up that mantle a little bit in his absence while he's doing other shenanigans. On that note, another great series to follow along with, and you won't be too far behind, is Devil's Reign itself. So this, if you read Gotham Fear State, and all those books like Batman Fear State, or not even, no, Future State. If you read the Future State books for the Gotham theme where the magistrate takes over, it's essentially that, but New York and Marvel. It's very, very interesting. They got a lot of people drawn in here. There's a lot going on. They got a lot of broad entourage of characters brought into it. And it's touching on the hero registration, Civil War vibes, but not really leaning into it because everybody's kind of no, this is bad. But it's definitely been a good book, and I really enjoyed this one as well. It's another solid installment for this comic book series. Then we have Star Wars: The High Republic Trail of Shells. Trial. Trail of Shells, Shadows. This one started slow, and it was a little bit of a it's starting, I'll pick it up type deal for me. I like to grab number ones, give them a try, and see if they're interesting. if they're kind of in my area of interest. So I did snag this one, and it has gotten better as it went. This one started slow itself, and then just dove right into some solid action, and it's really tying into the other series, the High Republic, um, Star Wars: The High Republic series, like the main one, not Adventures, but the other one. And it's tying in with that, with the action, and the stories are now crossing paths. So I'm curious to see what's going to happen in those next few books. But both of the books have been very good. Then we have, of course, can't go a week without a Spider-Man book. Let me move that down for you guys. The Amazing Spider-Man, Enter the Slingers. So I think this is just a new superhero team that's kind of getting announced here. It was wordy in the beginning, moved pretty quickly, but I really like this main guy, who I believe is Hornet or Prowler, like however you want to say that. But I would need more determination on that because it's a little vague. Because I don't recognize him straight up from the book, from past stuff. Because my comic following has been in and out based on like finances and such in my life. So, but it was actually really good. This guy's actually like really fucking smart. It was actually really good because this guy is really, really smart. So that was interesting to see. And it really drew me into the comic, as him just being really smart and also handling his business essentially. But yeah, it was a good book. Slow start and then really strong finish, and I will probably pick up more of them. And it's also a Spider-Man offshoot now for that Beyond arc that they're currently working on, and pumping out Spider-Man books like every week essentially. It's a little tedious. But next up, another really strong title right now. We have up. I can't get things set up. We have Titans United. This is a 6 of 7, so this one's actually almost done, and then I have a feeling it's going to go into another arc. But if we're lucky, it'll all wrap up in the next book, and they won't give me another arc, because if they do another arc, I'll buy it. But we'll see. We'll see how that one shakes out. But this is Titans United. It's been a very strong series, as you can see. That is Starfire and Blackfire on the cover here. They're throwing hands because Blackfire is causing a whole lot of trouble for Earth, and uh, and we don't know why. We're just getting the answers in the end of this book. That there's a little bit more to the story here, but it is a very good Titans book, and has been, and I assume number 7 is going to be very good. So here we have the Crown Prince of Crime himself. I really stumbled on that one. The Joker. This book is like one of the first that's been like set to be about the Joker himself. Excuse me. And it's still being written by Tinian, who's kind of working his way out of DC, who's going into more like self-owned type writing and books. So it's interesting to see where the series will go afterwards, but so far it's been extremely good. And this was another strong installment for this book, and it's really just kind of flexing Jim Gordon at this point. Like, it's a lot of insight into Jim Gordon. It's not a ton of insight into the Joker, because he is the title of the book, but the book follows Gordon more than it does the Joker. The Joker is obviously appearing in it often, but he's not particularly the main character. He's the main subject, but not the main character. But it's been really good, and I definitely recommend it. And if someone wants, I could do a full rundown on all of these books so far, and it would probably be a great time. On that note, we have more covers, because I like to collect the Joker covers. So there is another cover, really well done. You get some better lighting for you guys on these comic books. And here's a punchline focused cover, because there is a punchline story in the back of every Joker book so far. And then most of these Joker books also have pretty good cover incentives, like 1 in 25s, 1 in 50s, 1 in 10s. But we'll get that out the way, and then we'll give us over to Batman Urban Legends. Now, this is a larger book every single time. It's got like 5 stories in it here, thicker book, and it is really good pretty much every week. There's like sometimes there's 1, maybe 2 stories of the 5 or 6 that I don't really enjoy, but after like the first 2 Urban Legends came out, which is more like they're 50-50, they've been just hitting so hard. There's even a Batman Beyond story in one of them that was just amazing. Like the art was great. Seeing him just do his thing as Batman Beyond was just amazing. And I really hope they make a Batman Beyond comic book at some point because I would buy the crap out of it. But yeah, this is another really, really strong installment for the Batman Urban Legends group, and we'll get more into those stories that are going on. And yes, that is a bat dog and a bear and a turtle and a squirrel. That's a thief, and I think a rooster that has robo legs. But yeah, there's a lot going on there. But it's so good. We'll cover that later in the video here. But then we have Detective Comics, Batman Detective Comics, which ironically, Batman really hasn't been in lately because we've been following this Arkham Tower storyline. It does not tell me. It does not tell me where it is. Along in that storyline, I believe it was, but yeah, there is a new Arkham Tower being built in Gotham, or been built in Gotham, and they're trying to just get more funding, and it's supposed to be like a newer, more modern approach to mental health and fixing things, and like being better than Arkham Asylum is, where it's just a revolving door where they go and then they break out, or they go and kill people and all that stuff. So it's definitely a mental health story, and yeah, you're not going to be surprised who one of the main villains is behind it if you've read recent stories in the past year or stuff about the whole universe. Honestly, you can take a good guess of who's pulling strings and such, but it is kind of a good example of a different style of story where it's like more undercover work and them trying to really detective and piece things together than it is them just going somewhere, beating up some guys and winning type deal. And then our last book for the week is another really strong one. And this is Future State Gotham. And I'm sorry if that's a spoiler, but that is the new Joker on the cover here. Red Hood versus, or next Joker, not new Joker. And his next Joker, which is kind of synonymous with the I Am Batman that we mentioned before, the Jace Fox. He was actually next Batman. His title was Next Batman. So now we have Next Joker in there. They haven't really crossed paths in an extreme amount. They've done a bit in these past 2 Gotham books, but there isn't like a relationship like there was with the Joker and original Batman, the original 2, yet at least. But no, so like you could say stuff for Red Hood and Joker, obviously, because Joker, crowbarred him and stuff. Fun times. But Future State Gotham is a really good book. Really good storyline. Really enjoyed it so far. It's I think the only Future State book that's left. So all of these Future State titles have ended quite a while ago, and then the timelines are essentially very different than what could have been type deal. So this one's still in a projected potential future, but not really an actual one. So I don't know if they're just going to keep running this one, but they could. I'm not sure. I'm not sure where they're going with it, but if they keep running it, I will keep buying it. I've had a good time. And it's on issue 10, so that's kind of like backing up that it might just be a longer run, But it's really good. I really like it. One thing to note, since it is the last one here, I'll show you guys. If it matters to you guys, it is a black and white book. It doesn't detract from it too much. I honestly think it probably just saves them some resources and time. I'm not sure if it's an artistic choice. I assume it would be just so they can get the book out with less work put into it, and then they can send it out sooner. But it could be artistic choice as well. I'm not sure on that one, but it is very good. Okay, so now we're getting into the deeper plots of these comic books, and we're going to start with this Spider-Man book. This is Enter the Slingers, and in this book, it starts off with the main character. I've already forgotten his name. I'm not good with names. And his girlfriend or wife, one of those two. They own a company that's a lot like a crowdfunding site, and then it gets bought out by Beyond Corporation, the one that's titled in the arc and has their superhero division. Obviously, bad guys if you've been reading the other Spider-Man books. That gets bought out like so fast they can't even react to it. They get severance pay of 15 million. All the company employees get a huge check to settle them off, keep them happy. And then they're like, well, that's a little suspicious because they bought the company for 3 times the worth. So they go looking into things and they find some shady stuff with Beyond. Not hard to discover, essentially, because there's a lot of shady stuff, with Beyond. So they go digging a bit further. They run into another chick who was looking into Beyond because she had precognitive abilities and teleportation. That would be her. A little bit harder to see there. But she runs into them and they talk, and she's like, "Oh, I'm looking for my friend. He's missing. He's been gone for two weeks." And they go looking for him. They couldn't teleport in, but they do manage to get inside, and then they're fighting like these giant water bears, like those little, like those microscopic, like smallest living organism things. They're fighting those, but giant, and then they help fix that, and then now Beyond is trying to hire him. They offer him a job at the very end of it in their hero division, which is obviously, it's bad. It's bad. They're a bad company that's pretending to do good things. But, well, they're actually kind of selling success, and like, I don't know, you'd have to read the Spider-Man stuff to know exactly what they're getting into there. But that's the premise of that book, the deeper plot dive of what's happening. I read that one today, but he's actually really, really smart. When they're talking about what they were doing in the cavern or in the facility, he was like, "Oh, did you use the PIM format or the read format?" And like, he's talking to scientists. They're really smart, clearly really smart, and then he solves this situation on his own pretty much as well. Gets the team rolling together. So it was definitely a good time. And then this character was in there briefly. So I wish I could give you more plot points on this, but since I'm not familiar with this character set, I can't give you more than that at the moment. Okay, and then we have Trail of Shadows. So in this book, the last book ended with them appearing up on the Starlight space station. They drop out of hyperspace and they see that it is all lit up, on fire, destroyed, all that great stuff. So for that, it kind of rewinds a little bit here. They're getting a plan. They're aware of a monster that can affect Force users and like make them hallucinate and experience great fear and really, really mess with their minds. They ran into it in a previous fight just a little bit ago. And they warped away from that because they actually got on a main vessel, and then all of them started shooting the main vessel, so they dipped on out of there. And they got one of the guys who was going to sell the creature. Apparently, they're like really old creatures, but they're also very monstrous. In this, they land on Starlight, the space station. They bust through the ceiling, they get inside, and then they start shooting. And well, not really shooting. They shoot their way inside, and then they find Jedi, 2 Jedi, and a bunch of kids. So they put the kids on the ship, and then the other Jedi's like, "We need to get out of here." And he was like, "No, we got to find these monsters. I got to figure out what they are." This guy here, I think it's like Emmerich, Jedi Emmerich. And he's like, "Okay, we'll go with you and help." So he goes with, and they enter a wounded one that they gotten earlier. that hadn't recovered and run away yet. So they're approaching it. He's hallucinating madly, like madly. I might open this up and show you here. Yeah, so we have like grotesque hallucinations going on here. That's that grotesque thing is actually her standing next to him going in. So he's knowing these are hallucinations at this point, and he's counteracting that just with sheer determination and will. And they're trying to get more information, and then it ends up the creature that they're trying to get more information on ends up getting blown up, and from there he doesn't really get what he wants. But they did get one of its claws. That's what he sees, that like hand thing. But in reality, it is this. I have to do a better setup for this, I think. But in reality, it's more of a claw. And then they get some of his blood. Something I want to note is Mr. Twi'lek. He's running back in. He got blood on his robes, and so he gave his robes so he could like scan the blood and figure out what the creature is, and then he's running back into there naked. So I thought that was pretty badass, or pretty cool. One second here. Okay, might be a weird jump cut there. I got interrupted in the middle of it, but we're moving on to our next book, which is Devil's Reign. This is 4 of 6, as you can see on the cover here. And essentially in this book, Wilson Fisk is the mayor of New York, and he's put out a law like outlawing vigilantes, masks, good or bad, but he's also signed up villains to be his sheriffs, his deputies. So he's signed up masks to hunt down the mask, but all of them are typically villains. Like you have U.S. Agent, Rhino, Shocker. Trying to think of some other ones off the top of my head, but I can't. Otto Octavius was one. But Otto is actually when they took the Fantastic Four Tower, because they came for them and arrested them, Otto just stayed there and touched all of Reed's things, and he's gotten superior versions of himself. Like if you remember Superior Spider-Man, where Otto was in Spider-Man's brain, like he merged in there and was like acting as Spider-Man as Otto. That's what's happening with these other characters that he's pulled. So he's got like a superior Wolverine and a superior Hulk and a superior, I don't remember the other one, but there's another one. So there's 4 of them. And I think a book has come out on that, like the Superior Heroes or something like that has come out, which is probably really interesting. I have to look for number 1. I missed it. But so Otto's essentially running the show. He's betrayed Wilson, taken over, because you can't. How do you stop that? Like Superior Spider-Man himself was extremely difficult to stop because he's just so smart. Otto was very efficient, and even managed his life better than Peter does. But in this particular book, Otto comes in, is threatening, all that stuff. Wilson Fisk, also former Kingpin, his son is now the Kingpin, so that's another storyline you're going through probably in Daredevil. A lot of this started because the Purple Man is like a psychic guy who can influence people. His children made everyone forget who Matt Murdock was, Daredevil. Like he made them forget that connection, which is very similar to that Peter Parker thing in the current MCU, which is really kind of interesting in itself. But Kingpin knows that he doesn't know. He knows that there's a missing chunk of information. It was driving him crazy, and he runs into Daredevil, and Daredevil kind of just talks crap to him instead of really doing a good job. Like knocking it down, getting out of the way type deal. So oh man, work just mentioned me there. It comes through on my phone, sorry. But he like talks down to him and is all aggressive. This Daredevil currently is very aggressive, and it's kind of awesome. But yeah, so that kind of kicked off this whole venture. And then they're realizing now that Purple Man is influencing people, but subtly. And now Purple Man's kids are in town, are in New York, and he sends his deputies, Rhino, U.S. Agent. Oh, I can't remember the other ones here, but he sends them out to go get them because they can make Wilson even more powerful with his cane here. And he can influence people, influence voters, and do all that stuff. And he can win pretty much no matter what if he gets those kids. And Rhino is actually like, you know, I'm not such a bad guy. So he goes and finds Miles Morales and his crew and tells them that, hey, Fisk has us hunting down kids. I don't want to hunt down kids. You guys need to do something. So he snitches and kind of just gives the heroes a bunch of information. That sets off Jessica Jones because her and Luke Cage are big roles in this, and Luke Cage is actually running against Fisk to be the next mayor of New York. So they were going. Tony Stark was like, "I'll do it," and then they were like, "No, you don't really relate to anybody." So they're like, "Luke Cage, you do this." So Luke Cage is doing it, but he's not going to win if everyone's mentally, psyched out. And it's just so much going on. As I talk about, there's just so much going on. And I'm covering more than one book at this point. But I would probably have to go and give like a full synopsis. Maybe when the series ends, I'll do a video on the 1 through 6 of Devil's Reign, and then I'll show the offshoots that I had as well, because there are offshoots and crossovers from this book to other ones. Yeah, let's see if I'm missing anything so far. But pretty much, Jessica Jones is pissed that they are going after children, and she's gonna go fix it herself, or she's gonna break people. But the story is also doing like a really good. Oh man, there's a big twist at the end that I forgot. The story is doing a really good job of like kind of humanizing Fisk. Because apparently like he's remarried and like he didn't how he used to fight in battle and like strive to be Kingpin. Apparently, he doesn't need that to be happy anymore. He's found satisfaction like in his new marriage and all these other things. But he accidentally restores his wife's memories using Purple Man's powers. And then he realizes that he can probably do that for himself too, and he restores his memories of who Daredevil is. And so your ending scene of this comic book, huge spoiler if you're following along. Don't know if you guys can read that here, but that's him in the rain here, remembering very angrily Matt Murdock. So he's remembering he used the cane, Purple Man's powers, on himself to know who Daredevil is, which is a huge deal. Because that's kind of a premise of this whole event, the Kickstarter. So I think he's probably going to be paying a visit to Daredevil personally shortly. Next up on our list here, another great one. This one I kind of feels like a little bit of an offshoot because we're like a Fist of Khonshu, but it's the different one, and this is Hunter's Moon, I believe. I believe that's the name of his. Yeah, I believe he's Hunter's Moon is like his official name, but yeah, with Moon Knight being incarcerated with the New York laws, he got caught in the Moon Knight crossover. I believe from a couple weeks ago, couple weeks ago. So he's standing in while Moon Knight's dealing with that. And actually, in Devil's Reign, they do stage a jailbreak because they were using the same inhibitor collars that they used during like the Civil War, the Registration Wars. And apparently, Reed Richards built those, and he built fail safes into them so they can get out. So he gets out, Visible Woman gets out, they stage a jailbreak. Moon Knight's now out in like a handmade face wrap, which is cool. Yeah, but that's Devil's Reign. But yeah, so that takes us back to Moon Knight, where he's fighting. A cop comes to him, or former cop comes to him, and is like, "Hey, weird stuff's happening. People getting killed by crossbolts." And then this symbol, it's just this scarlet window. Sheesh, I can't remember the name of it. Sorry, blinking out a bit because it's a obscure thing. Stained glass scarlet. So it's like a lady that married a mobster, and the mobster was killed. She also had a son. She killed the son, and then she kind of became a anti-mobster vigilante, killing mobsters, and then she went like even more crazy and became kind of like a terrorist. And then she was killed as well. But now through her story, since she's become like a folk legend, she's essentially gained like a modicum of godhood, um, due to her story and like believers and like getting crazy with that. Like, so we have her kind of being a goddess, in a way, because her story is so like pushed out there like that. And it was actually really cool because it was like story versus story, because Hunter's Moon calls in his boss and they kind of throw hands while Hunter's Moon just kind of leaves because you can't kill a god is what pretty much like what the fight boils down to. You can't kill a god. You can wound them. You could like make them kind of forgotten about by killing their followers so no one's talking about them. Like, but you can't kill them. So it's its own ordeal type thing. But still really cool book. Moon Knight's going great places, great art, great story. Loving it, and I'm excited for that HBO Max show as well. Was it HBO Max or is it just Disney Plus? I don't remember which. But wherever Moon Knight's coming out, I assume it's Disney Plus. Doesn't make sense to be on HBO. But I'm excited for that as well. Okay, this one is going to be a big one. I'm going to have to open it up. So our next book, where we're going to talk about the plot here, is the Justice League book. I'm going to need to crack it open because this is a huge book and I'm otherwise going to forget things. So actually, are they making a live-action Naomi? Interesting. Okay, based on that ad in the front page, they are making a CW Naomi, who is a newer character, and is just apparently a mega power. And I think she's supposed to kind of compensate for Superman's falling off. But yeah, this starts with Omac here in a timeline, and he's fighting through. He's doing work, and then he finds Hawkgirl in a test tube. This is the future, mind you. Hawkgirl in the test tube, they touch, and it cuts back. Wonder Woman is back from the dead. They're having a surprise party to welcome her back. Things are going well. Omac pops up, but he's disconnected from his battery, his eye in the sky, brother eye, I believe. That's like his power battery that keeps him going, but his teleportation like didn't include that, so he's been weakened essentially. But then the readings that came from his teleportation also popped up in other places. So when they go searching for that, they're finding I can't remember his name now. But pretty much they're finding one guy who's split into like four versions of himself, four time versions of himself to split up. And Epoch, Lord of Time here. Right there. Epoch, Lord of Time. And he has split into four versions of himself, looking for something that he can't tell them to fix something that he messed up. He won't really admit that he messed up. He just says like, "Oh, I messed up, and I need to fix it." And he's looking for a Golden, which actually he's about to win a fight. And then who else but Hawkgirl, who in the middle of this fight gets teleported somewhere to the future, like some other time zone, where Omac actually saves her in the beginning, and then they save that planet that he saves her on in the beginning, and then they come back here to stop Epoch, and they worked with a future version of Epoch to stop his past version, who doesn't agree with what he's doing. So there's a lot of time travel, but the story is a lot more cohesive than I made it sound, and it was a lot better than I made it sound. It also just wraps up, everybody's being cool, and then you got just kind of a moment between Wonder Woman and her mom, because her mom, Queen Hippolyta, has actually somewhat joined the Justice League, to kind of fill in her absence when Wonder Woman died after the like remaking of the universe thing that happened after the Joker nonsense, Joker War, craziness, Batman Who Laughs, all that stuff. So she's come back there, and now they're in like a awkward space because like she's out here and Wonder Woman's here, and it kind of sounds like she's going back. Then Queen Hippolyta's going back to help out the Amazons. Excuse me. So it's a large process here. A lot going on. Very good read. Then we have I Am Batman, and this has been a really good book. So like, first, like, just to talk about, like, it's a black Batman, and he's showing that he's a black Batman, and he's a black Batman in New York, and he's not hated. I like the storyline approach because the mayor is talking about Batman being in his city. They know he's not the same one because obviously they can see his skin tone, and so they talk, and they're like, "What are we gonna do?" And their mayor has the idea to essentially deputize Batman. Tell him, I'm giving you a task force. We're gonna work together. We're gonna solve crime. We're gonna fix things. Um, so it's not the Gotham route. They're not hunting him down. It's not a manhunt. He's working with the cops, which was just introduced in this comic. It hasn't really rolled out in force yet. And they actually have a former Gotham detective in charge of the task force. But she doesn't like masks because she was in with the whole Gotham Fear State ordeal where vigilantes were illegal, and she just feels wronged in a way. But it's really good. So this one, he's just kind of helping with petty crime, helping out in areas, and then he's talking to the cops. Like, well, there's one scene where it's like a 3-minute response time to shots fired. That's not good, officer. And he's like, we're extremely understaffed. And then Batman's like, I just want to make sure that and show that everyone's taken care of, not just like rich areas and such. Like the police force is supposed to be helping everyone, not just areas that can pay more and all that. And the cop was actually like, we appreciate you type thing, which is just a cool change in path too, where it's like New York's accepting him in a way, but there's obviously the assistant mayors against the plan and the police commissioners against the plan. So there's still those roadblocks, but it's set up in a different way. And while all of this is happening, we have like before you even got there's a murdery dude getting into some shenanigans. I'll show you the comic here. So kind of graphic, a little bit dark, but he essentially caught up a guy and turned him into a 2D, 3D painting. So we got like a weird serial killer, creepy guy running around at the same time, which they're going to probably try to blame on Batman. Like, Batman comes and then all these masked crazy villains come. But, I mean, that's a little bit because there hasn't really been superheroes in New York too much on the DC side. It's very much a Marvel thing, whereas DC's like, we're going to invent a new city, which is that, but also have the other cities exist. So it's interesting. A Batman in New York is very, very interesting and could be very, very cool. So I'm excited to see where this one goes, and that's pretty much the general plot to that guy. Okay. Next up, we have Future State Gotham. And so in this scenario, I actually read this one first, or near first. Like, it's been that good of a story. And there's essentially three main crime lords that they're fighting here. And one of them's already dead. So here we have, it's a little goofy looking, but there's next Joker, and he's just face palming the next Batman into a helicopter windshield. So essentially there's three whales, they call them, or like main crime lords, and one of them is already dead. So they're trying to protect the other two from the next Joker and whoever he's working with, but they don't essentially know that yet. So the Joker trying to kill the whale, big, like, kind of blockbuster type guy, and trying to keep him alive, and that's not working out. The Court of Owls type guy has already been killed here, and they are, pursuing things to try to help, but they end up crashing. They take the whale in so he can get protected from the next Joker, and they think the next Joker is either dead or incapacitated in the helicopter crash, and he's not. He's alive, and then we actually get like a pretty crazy look at him as well. Let me change the camera view here. So we get a pretty good look at him as well. So it's like a Joker and Bane and like Venom from Marvel, like all mixed together. But that's what we're running into for those. And he is just like a tank, essentially. And in the end of this one, because this is still the future state, so the magistrate from Fear State's still in effect, and it's even stronger than it was in the Fear State event that happened in Batman. And they send in reinforcements, and then the next Joker appears to have just taken over these giant automatic things that they sent in to help. He hijacks them, hacks them immediately, and then there we go. Now he's got a freaking army because he had like cybernetics in his hand that he could like hack these robots, and it was just pretty cool. And that was actually the last page of the book. But then also look at that alternate cover though. It's really sick. Just a black and white. The cover itself is really sick, but that black and white kind of hits a little bit differently than that main cover does. But it's a really good. And then what? They're gonna have to try to get out of that in some way in the next one. So like, it's doing a really good job of making Next Joker like. Here, I'll put that book back. I'm sorry. It's doing a really good job of making Next Joker a threat, but in a different way than the Joker was. Like Punchline is even in earlier books of this Gotham series, and she is scared of Next Joker. She wants to be transported elsewhere in the country to not be near Next Joker. Like that's how crazy they're making him seem. So they're doing a good job. Like he's got a shroud of mystery, but he's also got a shroud. He's got a physical aspect that seems to be blended with a mental aspect that you haven't seen in a Joker before. You've seen it more in a Bane, if they're being a true to form Bane, where he's kind of that super smart and super strong guy. But I think this is going to be in a way that's more morbid and messed up than a typical Bane takeover, which is usually more dominant but more military structured. So it's been really good. It's been really good. Highly recommend the Gotham series. Okay, let's take this one off the sleeve here because we are going to need to. But this one's had kind of the same thing happening for a few weeks. They built this big Arkham Tower, and that's supposed to be like the future of Arkham Asylum. Like we're moving away from that old creepy building. We're going with this tower, which is kind of in the middle of Gotham. I personally was a little bummed out that they're having troubles with it, and there's a storyline built around troubles with it, because I want Gotham to have one nice thing. And this big shiny tower could have been that one nice thing, but no, we don't get that. We instead get trouble. And basically what's happening is the whole scheme behind the tower is a scam to try to get rich. They're trying to secure city funding, quickly take it and leave. And they're seeing miracle cures from this tower of these people where they're completely docile and happy. And I had my own theories early on that Psycho Pirate was involved, and he is. He's the guy behind the desk in the tower, and he's controlling this whole tower, but he's completely unstable. So he's losing controls, and there's gaps in his break. Like he breaks his hold on all the patients, and they start just going to town on each other. Nightwing's undercover in there. Huntress, who is still having like visions from the Vile incident earlier in the series, went there to try to kind of get help and to undercover scout, and she's been trapped in there. Triss Meridian, which I believe is Arkham Knight, but I might have those mixed up, is also in there. She's like kind of also on the forefront of the mental health in Arkham and trying to fix things. She's there for the mayor's office to review it to approve the funds because he wants to do things right, especially after he just greenlit the magistrate and that went horribly. So, and they also have a Batwoman undercover as a doctor. I think Doctor Ware. I'm not really sure, but she's undercover as a doctor as well. And like this break happens, and the Psycho Pirate gets it back under control, and then he puts the entire building to sleep. And then they say there's a gas leak, and then the doctor sent out a message to Batwoman saying, "Oh crap, like something bad happened," and they deleted it because it's through a work phone, and then they fired Batwoman's doctor alias. So we have Nightwing and Huntress inside still, but Huntress is kind of out of it because of one, Psycho Pirate, and two, she's not fully herself due to these visions and violent visions and all that stuff. But it's been good, and it's been very, very much like more detective work. They're really trying to like break this apart, and Batman's not even in it. This is like everybody else but Batman at the moment here. So it's just another storyline about him in it because he's actually out fighting Abyss in, I don't remember where, Madrigal, something like that. Somewhere else, you know. Okay, let's cover the Joker next. Yeah, we'll do the Joker here. I'll give you guys. Let's see. Actually, it'll work out because I have variant covers. So I'll give you guys the main cover, and then I will use the variant book for reference. But essentially, in this one, the last issue or 2 issues ago, Jim Gordon gets messed up, and then he gets rescued by Batgirl, Barbara, his daughter, and he's taken back for health and good measure. And they find out that this Hairsbane, the daughter of the Bane that's been kind of running around, was actually created in the lab and like trained to kill the Joker, which is just crazy. And like in the same lab, like there's like 6 Jokers in biotubes for like human parts so they can stay alive, and like staging deaths and all this crap. It's just a whole huge underground evil billionaire ring that's like that it's getting into for the world. But essentially Barbara's like, "Oh, I'm gonna take your spot in this. Dad, you stay home, you get better." Immediately he's like, "No, that ain't right, we ain't doing that." And then so he's going out and then following them essentially because he knows something's going wrong, even though he's still lit up from getting like stabbed and shot and beat up and all this stuff. So she's met with Court of Owls chick who are going out to the Samsons, these people in like Texas or whatever, who really want to kill the Joker because they think they killed a family member of theirs. And they have the Joker in custody currently, and they're going to torture and I presume eat him, is their plan, because it seems to be what they do is kill and eat people. And that's more backstory from the last book than this one. But essentially, Barbara's plan goes to crap because they took out the plane that she was having follow them with a Talon. They took over that, so Barbara's kind of a hostage now. But then Jim is on top of his game. He roped in Bullock to help him, and so he like calls the lady and the Court of Owls lady, and he's like, "Hey, this is what's gonna happen. I know everything. I'm gonna spill it all if you don't do what I want." And Jim is also aware that Cassandra is following. I believe that's Orphan. I get confused with some of their names at times. But and she's one of the coolest new characters. She is like a fighter. She tosses Bullock after he's like, "Oh, she can't probably fight. She's a third of my size." Stuff. She's so cool. She's like just a great fighter. It's really, really awesome. But yeah, they meet up, essentially prisoner exchange. And then she sends the Talon with Barbara to like make sure there's no funny business thing. So Jim is staying there, taking his place with them again, um, and then essentially saving his daughter and her friend. And then the Talon rides on there, but Cassandra takes out the Talon on the plane. So the plan is different than they expect. But this is where like one of the biggest twists that's happened yet happens. So if you want this spoiler, you got to look away right now because I'm about to say it. Bane is alive, and he's pulling strings on this scenario. Bane is alive. Jim Gordon figured it out, and he's now somewhat in trouble. And then here we have the Joker in a cage at the Samson's estate in trouble. But Bane was presumed to be dead in A-Day, the attack which kicked off a lot of the crap that started the Fear State, because he was in Arkham Asylum at the time. But then you find out, like, Joker this whole time has been saying, like, I didn't do A-Day, I wasn't even in Gotham, all this stuff. But everybody thinks he did because it was staged as a Joker attack. But now we're finding out A-Day was likely a Bane thing, and he just dipped and let people think he was dead. And now he's been pulling strings on his own shenanigans, and I think his own goals to kill the Joker. Because that's what Jim's goal has been from the Court of Owls and Bane, has been to kill the Joker. So that seems Bane's end goal is to kill the Joker. But now we got Samson, who has the Joker. So there's probably going to be a fight between those two over the same guy, and the Joker's probably going to squeak out. But it's just been an insanely good read. And that was just a huge twist as well, because in my brain, the Samsons had to give up one of their own. They give up like this big brute guy who died in A-Day, which is why the Samsons want to kill the Joker, because they think the Joker did that, and they want revenge for him. I thought it was going to be him. I thought he was going to be the guy under the mask who got revealed, and like he was smarter than everybody thought, or crazier, and got out of Arkham and had his own wealth type deal. But nope, it was Bane. So they got me with a twist. I didn't see it coming. I was shocked. Or we got 2 more books, so bear with me here. This video might be way longer than I intended. I don't even know how long I've been talking at this point. This is my first video here, so if you're with me, thank you, and I appreciate you. Okay. Titans United. So essentially when we start this book, 2 books ago, Starfire was fighting Lady Vic. She had Thanagarian weapons, and she was shooting him, and like pretty much she was essentially really powered up because of these weapons. And then Starfire was like, oh crap, that one's gonna blow, and she saves Lady Vic, and the whole house blows up, and Lady Vic's being a jerk. Trying not to swear, for these longer videos. It's really hard for me. It's part of my personality. So they're still fighting afterwards, and then Thanagarian ships show up, and that makes Starfire pretty upset, because she knows her sister's doing this, and like all of Earth has been taken over at this point. The Teen Titans stood against them, but they've all been in custody, and so we cut to the ship. One of the big parts of the Teen Titans falling was Blackfire kidnapped Superboy and turned him into Black Zero. So she kind of tortured him and kind of unlocked a bit more like power and ability and from him. So he's a lot stronger. He's got kind of like a power suit that shoots a laser beam out now. So it's kind of like he's got the heat vision, but it comes out of his chest type deal. But he's like betrayed them or been led to betray them, like somewhat through the torture. Like they kind of mess with his mind, but he's coming back. And then this book actually had a really cool scene between Red Hood and Connor, because they like don't get along on the Teen Titans, because Red Hood doesn't get along with anybody really. But it's just Red Hood being a jerk, and that's what's like getting through to Connor essentially, because he's talking and it's like a heart to heart a little bit while while Red Hood's essentially getting beat up because this guy's almost Superman strength. Um, so they're throwing hands, and then he's like, "You won't kill me because you you are still a good guy," and all that stuff. And then everybody's like, "Oh no, did he kill him?" But he didn't. And that's where it kind of transitions into they're winning now because all the Teen Titans have been released. Blackfire's essentially subdued at this point. But then we're finding out that Blackfire was doing this for another reason, but we don't know what yet. Some other fleet shows up on the last page, one that Starfire did not recognize, which I assume Blackfire will. And then we'll see who we're fighting in number 7, see if that goes on to another series or if it's going to end as it ends. But apparently the ship that shows up has enough power to just crack Earth like an egg, according to Blackfire. But it's a good action book. It's good fights. It's good everything. It's got everything. If you like Teen Titans, if you like DC Titans, if you like Young Justice, it's got what you like. They kind of like mix all of those vibes together of those shows, which I think they know have been drawing people to the comics in and building off of them. So we got ourselves, which actually next week I might have to next week I will do this differently, actually. I can do a screen capture and then show the cover while I talk about it, and I can use it as a reference. So yeah, next video, we've got a better idea here of what to do for showing off the covers, at least. It'll be a better look than showing the books themselves. But yeah, we have our Batman Urban Legends, and we are going with that. So our first story, Zatanna and Batman kind of like went to a secret grove a long time ago, and were just being in a relationship and cute, and then they like mind melded and something went terribly wrong and reality tore, and they had to come back like every year to fix it. It's a good one. I've always loved Zatanna, like, and like just seeing her and Bruce kind of like relating more, and then Constantine shows up to help at the end as well. So that was actually a really good story. Like, this is a bunch of short stories, and that was a good one. We had one in here which I kind of just brushed through because I wasn't really super interested in it. It was kind of a Poison Ivy type deal. So I kind of brushed that one over. But we had another one where it's a Gotham mortuary like assistant, and he can like talk to the dead essentially. And he came from like New York, and like things got weird, so he came to Gotham to like get less weird. But like the first one, he's like talking about he's weird, and he's kind of like helping with cases, and it annoys the detective in charge, and like he can like talk to the dead though, and he can portal to the dead here, which he is doing. And then there's his dead neighbor who he's trying to figure out what's happened to her. It's just a really cool storyline though, and then obviously twists like some chick that he met already was in the background of like the scene when they go back to the scene to try to recreate it and see what's going wrong and see who killed her and all this stuff. So very interesting there as well. And then we have Animal Adventure. This is what, part 2 of 6 for an Animal Adventure, but pretty much Batman got a dog, a German Shepherd, and it was adventuring with him, but then they were in a building, and it was Hugo Strange, and it was Batman versus Hugo, while the dog was fighting people down below and doing his job. But then Hugo ends up suicide bombing. Dog is getting into something, sorry. Hugo ends up suicide bombing on Batman because he had like stage 4 cancer or something. He's about to die anyway, so he's like, I might as well go out trying to kill the Batman. They're gonna sell Batman's body, I believe, on the black market. So Batman's been taken captive, and they're trying to get money from him. But then Ace is brought to evil pet cemetery guy who's like experimenting on animals and like doing animals for villains. So we actually have like, oh, what was it? A dog they got for Lex Luthor called Lix Luthor, and they trained it for Lex, but Lex ended up being allergic to dogs, so he couldn't keep him. It was just insane. And they have a squirrel that can steal. They have a bear that was like a bar bodyguard. But this guy's pretty much just really terrible to animals. And then Batman's like talking shit to his captors about how he's gonna bust out, and then the dog is trained by Batman, so it busts out, and it busts out a whole group of animals. I gotta see if I can find a good picture. There you go. There's them running by like the crematorium section, but yeah. So Ace busts out a turtle that's been trained to run fast, a chicken that can play chess, and has bionic legs, and a squirrel thief, and a bear. The bear is just a bear, but I mean, you don't really need to do much to a bear. Bears can just throw hands. Bears, we bears. And that's the last of this book, but I'm excited to see more pet stories here. And actually, I think this book was actually kind of a good grab because people were, or actually no, 2 books ago, because it was the first appearance of this particular dog. So that was a bigger grab, or a more important grab. So to some. Oh, but man, that is all of the books I have for this week. And next week we have, or this week I should say, which is, oh man, I might have called this 216 books, but they are the 29 books. We have 5, 15, 16. So the next video might be even longer here because we got a lot of good stuff coming out. Yeah, that will be it. We will be making another one of these this weekend, and we'll do better with it. Do better with graphics here. Something I just hadn't thought about. I don't even need to show you guys the books here if I could just show the covers on the screen. No lighting needed. No camera needed. So I will do that next time. But if you guys have any other ideas, if you made it here, give me a like. Give me a sub. Go follow me on Twitch. Keep an eye out for streams. If you want to talk comments, you want to talk anime, comics, video games, I'm here for it. I do it all. Let's have fun. If you got suggestions, or you want to know more about one of these stories, or another story that's going on, or another book that's out, let me know, and I'll see what I can do for you. But with that, I will see you guys with the next video. Thank you.